Hey guys, how are you all today? Today I'm going to give you a C# tutorial. The tutorial is going to be using Microsoft Chart Object, and the purpose of the exercise is to return the Y value of the elements within the chart when you hover over them with your cursor, and also to draw a target on the screen, a horizontal and vertical target lines, as you'll see in the demonstration. Okay, so here is the final product, and this is what we're going to aim to achieve today. So we've got a very simple form, and we've got three labels. The labels are showing the X position of the cursor and the Y position of the cursor, and then the top right there you see a little 0, which will be the element within the table's Y value. So if I come over to the table and then I hover down into our chart, you'll see the X and the Y pixel data comes to life. And as I move my cursor around the screen, you can see the X and Y positions incrementing and decrementing, going all over the place. And you can also see we've got our red cursor on the screen, so we know where we are at any particular moment in time. And then as we start hovering over the elements within the table, so element 3 here, we can see at the top of the screen we've got Y value of 30. Then we go over to the second element, we can see that this is Y value 10, and we can see the Y value's gone to 10. And then we go to the last element here, element number 1, which is Y value 5, and we can see the Y value at the top of the screen is set to 5. Okay, so without further ado, let's get on with the example. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is create our project. So we'll go to Start, New, or File, New, Project, or from our quick menu here we can do short Start New Project. We're going to do Windows Form application. Give it a name, chart demo. Of course you can call it whatever you like. Click OK. Here's our basic form. Now we need to add to the form our 3 elements for the label control and also the chart object itself. So we'll go to our toolbox, we'll pin it, and then we'll look through here for our common controls. Grab ourselves a label, place it on the screen, pause the video a minute, and I'll do this so to save time. Okay, you can see I've added 3 labels here. I shall rename those all to 0 in a minute, but I wanted to show you where to find your chart object. You'll find the chart object under Data, here, Chart, and just drag it onto our form. Let her go. Okay, and then we go resize it accordingly. Okay. So until you're happy with that, and then over here in your Solutions Explorer bar down under Properties, make sure you've got the chart object selected, and then start adding some data to your series. Now you can do this under Program Control, but for the purpose of this example, I'm going to put some data in using the Properties window just to save some time. I'll do a tutorial at some point in the future on dynamically populating the chart control using the series objects, etc. under code control. Okay, so if you look through your properties window, what you're looking for are these collection areas. Okay, so you've got your legends collection, you've got your chart areas collection, and you've got your chart name, but what we're looking for is series collection. So we go down to the bottom here, and there we go, series collection. Okay, so if you know anything about Excel or Microsoft Charting, you'll know that each data array is stored within a series. And so, for example, if you've got this, what we're seeing now on the chart is a single series. If we had 2 series on there, we'd see 2 forms of data. So one form of data, for example, could be presenting your age, and another one could be presenting your height, etc. So, but for the purpose of this demonstration, again, we're just going to be looking at a single series. So in our properties window under series collection, click on the little pop-up icon, and you'll see here we've got an area where we can add a new series. Okay, so we'll add a series. Actually, no, we won't. We'll remove it. We see we've already got a series in there. So okay, so inside our properties panel, we are looking for the series collection. We'll see it down here. Pop up the little series dialog and select series 1, which has been put in there for us. We can always remove and then add, if we so wish, a new series You can name the series as you see fit. Under name, you can see that you've got all the properties for the chart here under the properties pane. We're not going to really start messing around with the table to any significant extent today. All we're interested really is setting up the data. So if you look down through properties, we'll collapse everything to make life a little bit more easy for us. We're looking for data. Here we go. We've got the data section here, and then we see underneath the data section we've got the name of the series and we've got the points collection. Select your points collection, pop up the points dialog, then start adding your points. Okay, so data point 1, X value over in the data point panel here, and then the Y value. So we'll set X value to 0, Y value to 10. Click OK. In fact, no, don't click OK. Click Add. Click into the members panel and click Add again because you want a couple of points in here. New X value. We'll set this one to 10, and then we'll set the Y value to 20. Okay. Click out the panel again so it's accepted, and then click another Add. So we've got 3 data points. Again, Y value. This one we're going to set to 20, and we'll X value to 20 and Y value to 30. Okay. Now we can click OK. Collapse the data tab, collapse the data source, collapse the empty points, collapse the label, look for legend. Is legend visible true? Make that false, and then that will hide this label up here at the top right of the screen. Click OK. So now if we start this program, okay, we can see our form, we can see we've got our data, and we can see the 3 labels, and we can see the legend's gone. Okay, so now for the meat on the bones. Right click your form, click view code, you get your code window. We're going to need to add a reference to our chart object collection up here in the usings section, so I'll post that in, and we're going to be using system Windows Forms data visualization .charting, and that will give us access to methods later on. Okay, so now we need to add an event for the mouse move. So when the mouse is moving over the chart object, to add a mouse move event, you go over to your properties panel for the chart. Okay, find your chart object. So we do that by dropping down our properties demo here, find the chart object, okay, which will be, where are we? Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to add an event handler for the mouse move event over the chart. So we go back to our form, select our chart, come over to the right hand side here to the properties panel, slide up here to these 4 icons, and you'll see a little bolt of lightning which is called events. Select it, and then down here you will see all your chart events. Okay, so the event we're after is mouse move, which is here. Okay, so we can double click on that and it will create a method for chart1 mouse move, and then whenever we move the mouse within the chart, this method here, this procedure, will be called. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is create a point object to store our x, y coordinates in for the cursor. Okay, so point is a built-in object called point, provided by the .NET. Mouse point, I've called it mouse point, you can call it anything you like, equals new point, and then we pass into that the event object mouse event arguments that's been passed into the method here, e dot x and comma e dot y. Okay, and if you put a little period at the end of the e, you will see all of the other bits and bobs that get passed into the method through the mouse event arguments. Okay, we won't be using those here. We're just interested in the x and the y coordinate. The next thing we're going to do is to set up the cursor interval, which is the interval between the points between the mouse moving. So when I move my mouse from left to right or up and down, the amount of area or screen real estate that the cursor will jump over is the okay, so the next thing we want to do is set up the cursor interval. This is the step size that the cursor moves around on the screen, and paste that in. Okay, so to get that, you type in your chart object name followed by period, and then that will give you all the options available within the object. You're looking for chart areas, so enter C, H, okay, and then just glide down to chart areas. Here we go. And then brackets 0, because we're after chart area, the first chart area and the only chart area in our example. So we enter 0, period. Okay, again, within inside this object, you'll see all of the options available to you. We're only interested in cursor X, and then the interval size, and we've set the interval to 0, so we get smooth scrolling. Okay, and we repeat the process for our cursor Y interval. The next thing we want to do is to set up the cursor. So this is the red cross that you saw being drawn on the screen in the example I demonstrated earlier. Okay, so I'll paste the code in for you and just walk you through it. So again, we've got the chart object, chart area that we're interested in, the current cursor X location, and now here's the meat. Set cursor pixel position X, so that's setting the cursor now, your red cross. And then we pass in the mouse point object, which contains our X and Y coordinate, which we set up here earlier on, and we set the parameter to true, second parameter to true. All the true does is it basically rounds the cursor to the boundary, so you can see that by the IntelliPrompt that pops up, the tooltip. If we put comma in here, you can see the little tooltip that's popped up, and you can see round to boundary, which is the last parameter here, boolean, which we've just set to true. If true, the cursor will be drawn along the nearest chart area boundary. If the specified position does not fall within the system, Windows forms data visualization charting.chart area object. Okay, so just set that to true, and everything's going to be good for go. We do the same thing again, obviously, for Y, so we can get the X and we can get the Y cursor. The next thing to do is to populate our labels with the data that we read from the chart area. So I shall paste the code in again, and I hope you don't mind me pasting the code in. It just saves me sitting typing everything in for you, and that takes quite a considerable amount of time, as you know, and chances are I'll have a few typing mistakes come along the way, and just to compound the problem. So I'm going to paste it in. It just makes it a lot more efficient for me to basically explain to you what's going on. And of course, what's important here is the actual principle of the whole thing, how it's done, the concept. Okay, so we have a label 1 and label 2, and we've set the text properties within each of those labels. Okay, and we've basically typed in a label name, pixel X position, you can call that whatever you like. Use the plus. Basically the plus will append to the first string, so this is our string that we're going to write into the label, and then to that we're going to append some data, and the data is the chart area, x-axis pixel position, and it's converting the pixel position to an absolute value, and the pixel position it's going to convert is the X value here, and then here we convert to string. Okay, dot, you can use it using the dot notation. When you pop the old dot in there, you'll see that you've got a list of things you can select, and we want to convert the value that's coming back to a string. The reason we do this is that the text in the label will show, so the label is expecting a text value, not an integer, not a float, not a number, but a text value. So we need to convert that to a string. Label 2, exactly the same, the only difference here being we're using the Y value, okay, the x-axis Y value and the pixel Y value. Test is testing when the mouse is moved over a chart object, such as our element, one of our three elements, element 1, 2 or 3, it will return that result. So it will return the X value and the Y value of the chart element, so in our case 10, 20 or 30 being the Y value, or 10, 20, 30 being the 0, 10, 20 being the X value. Just remember to include your data visualization charting collection object up here within the using statement, otherwise you won't get your hit test result object declaration down here. We'll remove this and you will see this. It won't be highlighted blue. Okay, so make sure you've got that in there. Oh. Cursor location, X and Y is passed into the hit test. This allows the system to go away and compare the XY location with the chart element location and then return a result when your cursor is over one of your chart elements. What we can do is we can put a breakpoint on here for the moment just to see how she's going. We'll hit start, run the program, and then we'll move our cursor over our chart, hit the breakpoint, right click on our result, add a watch, drop the watch, in fact put a breakpoint just after the watch so that the result gets initiated or initialized even. Here we go, we've got a result now, it's no longer null, it's been initialized, so we can drop her open and we can see all the elements that are returned in the result object. They're all nothing at the moment, they're all nulls or nothing. Point index is 0. That's because we didn't actually hover over a chart element. We can't actually get to a chart element without actually going over some blank real estate first. So what we have to do now is we have to test for our point index, and when our point index goes greater than 0 or greater than or equal to 0, which I'll show in a minute, because 0 is actually the index for our first element in the chart also, and but it's also the index that gets returned when you're outside of the chart area. Very confusing. So you need to do two tests. You need to make sure that the object actually exists in the first place, and then that point index is equal to 0 or greater than 0. What actually happens in reality when you're hovering around inside the chart area, this returns a -1. So what we're going to do is we're going to check for point index, make sure that point index is either greater than or equal to 0 or greater than -1, and that the chart area actually exists. Okay, so bring our watch back down, out of the way, stop the application, clear our breakpoints, and then put in our hit result test code. Okay, so basically if result.pointIndex is greater than equal to -1 and the chart area is not equal to null, perform our label text 3 update. Okay, and label 3.text contains value string, the y value string, and then appended to that we've got result.series.points result.pointIndex.yValues.toString. Okay, so result was the result of our hit test. The series was the series of points returned in our result from our hit test. Points is an array of all the points within that series. So in our case we've got 3 points, and then within the brackets we've put an index in there, and the index will be anywhere between 0, 1 or 2 for each one of our 3 elements within our series. The point index is going to be 0, 1 or 2, as stated earlier, and we will see that in a minute. And then y values, which is the array to the y values data within our series, and then we're going to convert all that from a numerical value to a string value, which is then compatible with our label 3.text. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put a little breakpoint down here. We'll run the program just to demonstrate this. Okay, we've fired away. Actually, that was a little bit too quick, so what I'll do is we'll continue, we'll start again. Now I'm going to bring my cursor in, okay, bring it over the chart area. Okay, now at the moment our y index, point index, will be -1. Okay, you can see the x and the y values updating because the y and x labels are being updated outside of our hit test. So this is just more for information purposes than anything else. But then as I hover over one of these chart elements, if we go over 0, you'll see we've gone into our hit test comparison routine, and we've got a result. We've got a point index. The point index is 0 because we hovered over our first element. We run it again. This time I'll go over the second chart. Check out the point index. You'll see it's now 1. Okay, we'll run it again, and no points for guessing what we're going to get here for our point index. 2. Okay, so that's the third element within our chart. So point index, it's obviously 0 based indexing. So 0, 1, 2. Those are our 3 elements. Okay, label text 3 is obviously now equal to 30, which was our third element of y value. If we go over to our result object, we know all about that because we went through that earlier on here for our hit result. The series of data, the points. If we can drop the points list down, the points array, and you can see the 3 elements within the point array: 0, x, 10, x, 20, x, 10, 20, and 30. and then in our Y value you can see for the point that we've actually selected in the series, which was the third element, our Y value is 30, and now we've basically assigned that to our label3.text. So that's pretty much it. It's pretty grand, pretty useful. I like it a lot. I use it for some of my stock charting when I'm trying to find a particular date and a value, where you have hundreds or thousands of values of data, and you can slide your cursor over and you can pinpoint with quite decent accuracy. You can also use it for zooming into the chart, etc., etc., and with some further code expansion. Maybe I'll do that later on in a future tutorial. Okay, there's one thing I will do before we wrap up, is we will add the X value data to our chart. Okay, so, and I will code this in for you. So we'll copy our label3.text, Control C, Control V, and then we'll just rename this to label4.text. Actually, if I was you, I mean, it's bad practice just using your labels, label 1, label 3. You want to rename these to something a little bit more intuitive, but for the demonstration, I'm just going to leave them as is for the sake of time. And then we're going to call this X. This label is going to be X value, and then we're going to drop in here. We're going to remove the Y values array, and we're going to enter the period and hit X on the keyboard, and that will take us to our X value, and the drop down, double click so she's put into place, and then convert to string. That's before. That's it. We have a little red squiggly under label 4 because obviously we haven't created that label on the form yet. So we go back to the form, go over to our toolbox, collapse data, drop down common controls, go to our label control, drag her out onto the form, let go. She's called label 4, so everything should be good for go. Go back to our code, okay, and you'll see the squiggles disappeared. Rerun the application. Okay, move your cursor around, and now what you'll see is up here Y value, X value. So you'll see now that the X value is equal to 20, Y value 30, X value is 10, Y value 20, and X value 0, Y value 10. Cool. Well, hopefully guys you found this useful. I do like this real-time update of the cursor. If nothing else, it looks pretty special. Anyway, hope you found it useful. If you've got any queries, any questions, drop us a line and I'll see what I can do about answering them. If you found the tutorial useful, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up, and also feel free to subscribe to my channel. So okay, until next time, take it easy.